Hi, I'm Patrick with the Directv Technical Training Department. As technicians in the field, you're probably aware that our installation volume has never been higher, and our marketing department forecasts predict that it's only going to get better. This video will show the standard installation from top to bottom. There's a lot of information to cover, so let's get started. The complete installation from start to finish. Customers order Directv for many reasons: our digital quality pictures, our exclusive sports packages, our reputation for superior customer service, and often because they're dissatisfied with their cable company. Dialing 1-800-DIRECTV is the best call they can make for excellence in TV programming and signal delivery. The Directv Entertainment Consultants, ECs for short, are trained to work with the customer in setting up the best programming package for the customer's needs. They work from detailed scripts that cover many particulars of the job, including a description of the professional installation, the possibility of charges for custom work, availability of local channels, an alternate customer phone number, and the need for landlord permission if the customer is a renter. In fact, they go over so much information, the customer may not remember all the details by the time you show up. At the end of the call, the EC creates the work order and schedules it at a convenient time for the customer, depending on availability in your company's job calendars. The work order is dispatched electronically to your company's computer system. Your routers retrieve the work order and assign it to a qualified technician. The work orders are printed and delivered to the technician, who picks them up early on the day of installation. Most customers believe the Directv installer is going to look something like the guy in the TV ads. That may not apply directly to you, but a technician with a sloppy appearance can make the customer question his professionalism. T-shirts are not approved wear for Directv installers. We want to see you in a collared shirt with a Directv logo. There's no company standard for facial hair, but neatness counts. And don't forget your ID. You are required to show your ID badge upon greeting the customer. One research indicates that it takes only 7 seconds for someone to form an impression of you. Arriving with a neat and professional appearance does a couple of things that make your job easier. It makes the customer more comfortable, and that helps to put you in charge of the installation. If the customer trusts you, he or she is less likely to question your professional judgment, and that makes your job a whole lot easier. A Directv installation starts with the work order. You have to be able to read the codes. If you can't read the codes, you don't know whether they want a back rub or a car wash. So take the time to properly review the work order, then pre-call the customer. The pre-call allows you to confirm the customer's address, that the work order correctly states what the customer needs, that the right people are in the home to sign the work order, and it also gives the installer the opportunity to get any specific information, such as directions, or if there's been a change in schedule. Also, you can confirm the number of outlets and services you need to install. This way, you can be sure to show up with the necessary equipment to get the job done. The pre-call is your first chance to leave a positive impression with the customer. The best advice to convey enthusiasm and a positive attitude on the pre-call is to smile while you talk to the customer. The customer will hear that smile in the tone of your voice. Prior to going to the customer's home, determine the azimuth and elevation from the customer's home to the satellite using the Directv on-screen setup menu in your office. Write these numbers down. You'll need them to help point the ODU later on. Once the work orders are settled, you'll know how much equipment you'll need. It's always a good idea to check out some spares too, so a bad IRD doesn't ruin your whole day. Here's another tip. Use a checklist to make sure you don't forget some absolutely necessary small thing. Always make sure your van is stocked with all the items you'll need to complete your job. A well-stocked van is the key to a smooth install. Now we're good to go. And if I haven't mentioned it, a sharp-looking vehicle is part of your appearance. When arriving at the customer's home, it's a good idea to park on the street. You don't want to block the customer's car or drip oil on the driveway. Once the van is parked, it's important to open the job with your dispatch. The first thing you do when you arrive at the customer's home is a preliminary site survey, just to make sure there are no obvious obstructions. Make a mental note of type of siding, where power and phone enter the home, trees, roof pitch, and material. It's a good idea to walk around your truck to be sure everything looks good. Be sure to abide by your safety rules and regulations for your company and your municipality. When you're approaching the home, look and act professionally. When you approach the door, knock and step back. It provides the customer with personal space so they don't feel uncomfortable, and also allows the customer to see your badge and smiling face. Hi, I'm Patrick with Directv's Installation and Service. Are you Mrs. Smith?
Yes, I am.
Confirm the person in the home is capable of signing the work order. That means the person signing must be the person whose name is on the work order. Under no circumstances should you ever enter a home where there is not an adult present over the age of 18.
Sounds good to me. Come on in. My TV's right over here.
Be sure to ask permission to enter the home before you enter.
So here's the TV.
Oh, great. Okay.
It's a good idea to give the customer the full information package before you start the work. Give them the protection plan brochure and explain that it guarantees future service calls at no charge. Show them the customer satisfaction checklist and ask them to fill it out, because you'll need to take a copy with you when you leave. Also, give them the IRD user's manual ahead of time and let them know you'll show them how to use the system later on. The site survey makes or breaks a job. The locations of the TVs are critical. Explain to your customer that you will be doing an inside and outside site survey, and that you'll need them to join you to review your installation plan before doing any work. When conducting the inside site survey, you need to determine how the equipment is currently configured, determine if there's a working telephone connection in close proximity to the receiver, and if not, how you will get a telephone connection to that location. In some cases, you may need to install a telephone outlet. Determine what obstructions may be along the walls that would prevent you from routing cable and phone line. Determine the way the TV set is currently connected to a program source. After completing the inside site survey, you'll need to complete an exterior site survey. First, determine where and how you can ground the system. One of the most common mistakes new technicians make is to put the ODU close to the TVs. The ground location is actually more important. The ground block has to be within 20 feet of the ground source. You can remember it this way: ground rules. The preferred ground source is the one that is accessible and is external on the electrical meter base. Another option would be grounding to the electrical conduit or raceway at the meter base. The third option would be grounding to the meter base pan. The fourth option would be grounding to a suitable cold water pipe that meets the National Electric Code standards. Once you've determined where and how you will ground the system, you can select a location for the ODU. A suitable ODU site requires a stable mounting surface, a distance of 125 feet or less for RG6 cable from your antenna to your receiver. Certainly, the most important consideration is line of sight. Good line of sight requires an elevation angle clearance above the horizon, an 18-degree span clearance in the southern sky from 101 to 119 for an unobstructed view of all three satellite locations. This means there can be no trees, leaves, or buildings in the line of sight between the antenna and the satellites. If possible, it's a good idea to allow for an extra 10 degrees of unrestricted view on either side of the required 18-degree window. This provides some leeway and helps to eliminate the possibility of any future obstructions. A common error is not estimating future construction, foliage that appears in the spring, and future tree growth. The two tools that you'll find extremely useful in verifying a line of sight would be a compass and an inclinometer. I'm always amazed at how many techs don't have these. Sure, most of us have a pretty good idea where the satellites are, but anytime you've got trees or hills or other obstructions, you run the risk of installing the ODU in a bad location. Let's take a closer look at these tools. Most installers use an inclinometer compass combination like this one to determine the azimuth and elevation for aligning an ODU. A compass is used to find the azimuth from the home to the satellite. An inclinometer indicates the degree of elevation from a specific location to a satellite. Remember, we need a plus or minus 10-degree window in both azimuth and elevation. Standing near where the ODU will be mounted, determine the azimuth to the satellite using the compass. Next, use the inclinometer to determine the elevation in degrees. While looking through the inclinometer, keeping both eyes open, tilt your body back until the scale displays the elevation setting you received from the menu. The readings you need to be looking at are on the left side of the scale. A compass and an inclinometer will help you do your job better and faster. Once you've determined where you can put the ODU, you need to decide how and where you'll be routing the cables from the ODU to the receiver. When routing cables, route them as cleanly as possible. Remember, the less you see of the install, the better. When doing the site survey, you should be looking for places to route cables that are not only out of sight, but are protected. You also need to consider the type of construction of the residence. Is it built on a concrete slab? Does it have a crawl space? Is there a basement? Is there an attic? If there is an attic, is there access to that space? If the home is built on a slab and there is no attic or access under it, the cable should be routed through the wall so it is at the same level as the other receptacles on the wall. Keep in mind the distance of the TV to the outside wall. If the house is built over a basement or crawl space, you can always get to the first floor TVs through the floor. If the customer has an attic, you can also feed cables through there and behind the TV set to keep them hidden. Since all Directv installs need to be dual cable runs, we're going to have a dual ground block. It should be mounted in an accessible place and protected if possible. On the interior of the home, plan on running the phone lines with the RG6 cable to the receiver at the same time. Remember, phone line connections are mandatory for every receiver installed in the home, not just the primary. Once you've completed your interior and exterior site survey, it's time to inform the customer in detail how we're going to do the job.
I finished the site survey. Could I ask you to come outside right now and I'll show you how I'm going to route the
Sure.
cables? Thank you.
This is really important for customer satisfaction, and it's actually a time saver for us because the customer won't be surprised by anything at the end of the job and ask us to do it over.
And then I'm going to ground your system to this electrical box right here.
It's a good idea to show them where the ground wire will go. Let them know it'll be green, and it's a requirement of the National Electric Code. They say the devil's in the details, but here's what I know. There's hell to pay if the customer doesn't know the details. Also, be sure to let the customer know that having a phone line is required by contract and it's necessary to download current and future technology. You might think we put a lot of time into this job before we ever even picked up a tool, but this is how the pros do it. And don't forget, this is the customer's home. It's another job for us, but it's intensely personal for them. Managing the customer with courtesy and sensitivity is every bit as important as your technical skill. With your surveys done and the customer aware of the work you're getting ready to do, it's time to get to work. While the ODU is on the ground, it's a great time to preset the elevation and tilt using the information you wrote down from the setup screen. Many ODUs around the country are roof mounted. Roof mounting is only one option for the ODU though. You need to be equipped and ready for all kinds of mounts. An ODU can be mounted on brick, but be sure to put the anchors in the brick and not the grout. Sometimes a pole mount away from the house is the only way to get line of sight. The pole has to be set in concrete in a hole at least 3 feet deep, and you've got to use flooded cable underground. Mounting an ODU on the E fascia is a favorite in California, but you need to make sure you have enough space on the fascia to mount the base. Start by mounting the base securely. The mast base must be sturdy so the antenna does not shift under various weather conditions and its own weight. Mounting is preferable on wood or masonry. Never mount the ODU on any type of unstable material such as unsupported stucco, unsupported aluminum or vinyl siding, or unsupported composite paneling fiber, particle, or strand boards. The mast has to be plumb. The ODU will not align properly if it's not plumb. You can plumb a mast using a bubble level. The 18 by 20 multisat ODU comes with its own bubble level, so you can level the ODU quickly and easily. The final step to mounting the ODU is to peak it for maximum signal strength. Peaking an ODU is easiest using a signal level meter. Trying to peak an ODU without a signal level meter is like hunting squirrels with a rock. Using a meter will help you quickly align an ODU and peak it to maximum efficiency. If you don't already have one, now's a good time to go get one. With your ODU mounted and aligned, it's time to begin running your cables. We'll take a closer look at cables and connectors in our next section. The first step in eliminating faulty connections is preparing the cable using the correct cable preparation tool. For this demonstration, we'll be using the approved cable prep tool and this compression tool. First, cut the end of the cable squarely. While holding the tool, depress the lever. Insert the cable across the cartridge to the edge of the tool in the direction of the arrow. Let go of the lever. Spin the tool approximately 3 revolutions. You'll hear the braid cutting and feel the tool spin freely. At this point, you can reverse the spin. Depending on the cable you're using, the number of reverse spins will vary. Grasp the tool firmly around the cartridge without depressing the lever and pull the tool away from the cable. Here's a tech tip. This tool has a notched blade in the cartridge that eliminates the risk of scoring the center conductor and cuts through the PVC jacket, braid, foil, and dielectric, leaving the center conductor exposed. The shallow blade cuts only through the jacket of the cable. After you have successfully cut the cable, fold the braid back against the cable PVC jacket. Make sure not to disturb the foil. Visually inspect the dielectric to ensure that all braids are folded back. Make sure the braid is uniform around the PVC jacket and is not bunched or clumped. Braid can sometimes come in contact with the center conductor, causing a short. The braid should not be visible from the bottom of the connector. Ensure the center conductor is clean of dielectric residue and the braid is properly against the PVC jacket. The next step to eliminating faulty connections is to use a quality compression connector like this one. There are several different makes of connectors on the Directv approved material list, and they all have one thing in common. They are all compression fittings, which means they still have a round sleeve after you finish putting them on the cable. Be advised that each model of connector has a specific prep tool and compression tool that should be used with it. So make sure you're using the correct one. If you use the wrong one, your compression connector will not work properly. Crimp connectors should never be used. They not only change the shape of the cable, but they also allow water seepage into the cable. Push the connector onto the cable until the dielectric is flush with the connector mandrel face. Approximately 1/8 inch of the center conductor will protrude beyond the end of the connector nut. Here's a tech tip. Do not remove the cable from the connector once it has been inserted. Slightly angle the connector and cable and insert it into the compression tool area between the plunger tip and the cable gate, allowing the center conductor to enter the center conductor guide. Push the cable into the cable gate. Compress the connector by squeezing the tool handles together until a positive stop is reached. At this point, the compression sleeve should be compressed against the shoulder of the connector body. Remove the cable and connector from the tool by opening one side of the cable gate while removing the installed connector cable at an angle. A pull test will ensure the connector is properly attached and will not come off the cable. Here's a tech tip. When compressing connectors for outdoor use, install weather seal the ports and tighten to system specifications. Always use the proper size of weather seal. There are several different lengths on the market, and the incorrect size sleeve may do more harm than good. The Directv specification for torque on a connector not attached to the customer's equipment is 30 inch-pounds and should be tightened using a 7/16 wrench. Finger tighten connections to customer's equipment to avoid damage. By simply following this process and using the proper connectors and compression tools, you can save time and reduce repeat service calls. Next, we'll take a closer look at how to ground a Directv system. Directv requires the HSPs to always run dual cable to the ground block. This makes it easier to add future receivers and provides an excellent test point for troubleshooting. The quickest and neatest way to ground the ODU is to attach the ground wire on the dual RG6 cable to the ground lug on the base. Some ODUs are not packed with ground screws. Self-tapping ground screws are available from any electronic supply store. Smart techs like you always have some on hand. The other end of the number 17 wire is secured to a lug on the ground block. We run the number 10 wire from the ground block to the ground source. This is the best way to set up dual blocks. It grounds all 4 cables with one wire to the source. Ground wire is kind of tricky to work with because it's so stiff and it remembers every little bend. But here's a tip. Don't use your coax clips on ground wire. Put one clip at the top and one at the bottom and make sure it's straight. Then fill in the middle. Here we're grounding to the meter panel. Secure the ground wire to the lug and we're done. There are quite a few ground sources, and a good tech knows how to take full advantage of them. If you use a cold water pipe, make sure you follow NEC standards. If you plan to use a cold water pipe, you must confirm that it's a continuous copper cold water system before choosing this as a ground source. This means the pipe cannot include PVC or any non-metallic sections. Also, remember to use copper on copper and galvanized on galvanized. Here's something you never want to do. That's a gas pipe, my friend. And unless you want to recreate that scene in Lethal Weapon 2 where Danny Glover comes flying out of the bathroom window in smoke and flames, don't touch it. And if you don't know for sure where a pipe starts and ends, find a different ground. This is the way a good grounding job should look. Notice the service loops. These are for ease of servicing and reconnection later. Make sure the cables are lower than the connectors on the block so water runs away from the connectors. Also, note that ground blocks are always mounted horizontal. Now that we've got the system grounded, it's time to get busy with the cabling, and we'll cover that in the next section. There are 4 commandments in running coaxial cable. Keep it round, keep it continuous, keep it hidden, and if you can't keep it hidden, keep it clean. See how round this is? Round means an open pipe for signal. If it gets flat, or crimped, or kinked, or crushed, bent, folded, spindled, or mutilated, all of our 500 channels don't get through. That's why we never use staples. Not even the T25s you might have seen in older jobs. We don't pull the cable hard and tight. We don't create any sharp bends. We do take care when hammering in a clip. One slip of the hammer and the cable could be damaged. So round is sound. The second commandment is keep it continuous. Every connection in the cable is another potential trouble point where something can go wrong that will cause a service problem. Barrels in the line also cause signal reflections, which are not good for digital signals. Good techs eliminate every unnecessary splice from every cable run. First, keep it round. Second, keep it continuous. And third, keep it hidden. Nobody likes a lot of ugly wire on the walls of their house. There are lots of ways to conceal cable. Using the basement or crawl space is a tried and true technique. The attic is another excellent route. Both attic and basement runs save you the trouble of tacking the cable all around the house. Exterior runs should be made invisible by keeping the cable on the inside of the eave. Or you can tuck them under the lip of the siding. Keep it round, keep it continuous, keep it hidden, and finally, what's the fourth commandment? If you can't keep it hidden, keep it clean. Keeping it clean is all about technique and using the right clip for the right job. Try to integrate any existing lines in the architecture into the run when possible. There are clips designed for wood, masonry, or even aluminum and vinyl siding. Make sure you're using the right clip for the material you're attaching to. A great tool for installing clips is the RB2 clip gun, the only gun-driven clip approved for Directv use. These guns make the job easier and help prevent against cable damage. On vertical runs, use the same trick I showed you on the ground wire. One at the top, one at the bottom, and fill in the middle. Remember, straight is great. The masonry clip has a hardened steel nail that is designed to be driven into masonry. This can be difficult to drive in without damaging the masonry or the cable. They often chip out the masonry when you try to hammer them in. They can also bend. A trick to make your job a little easier is to drill a small pilot hole with a masonry bit before trying to pound the attachment nail into the concrete. Just make sure the bit is smaller than the nail so you get a tight fit. Attaching to wood is much easier. The clips are attached with nails or screws. Though the nail is usually the quickest, the best attachment is the screw. That's because there's less likelihood of damaging the cable installing the screw than hammering in a nail. A screwed-in clip is less likely to pull out if there's any pressure on the drop. Make every effort to keep the cable running in straight lines and allow a proper bend radius for corners and drip loops. The average bend should not be less than that of a 3-inch circle. Every entry through an exterior wall gets a bushing with RTV in a well-rounded drip loop. Professional technicians like yourselves should always have the right cable clips for any application, so make sure you're all stocked up. Depending on the customer's home, you may be routing cable down from the attic, up from the basement or crawl space, or if the home is on a slab, just straight through an outside wall. Before drilling or cutting any holes in a customer's home, always check to see if you can route the cable through an existing hole or wall plate. This should be done during your interior site survey. If you're entering through the attic, always know what's on the other side before you drill. Once you've drilled the hole, mark the hole so you can find it when you pull the cables through the attic. This can be done easily from the outside with a glow rod or even a piece of scrap cable. Always wear a mask when you enter an attic or crawl space. You can protect yourself from fiberglass irritation by rubbing a generous amount of baby powder on any exposed skin. A headlamp will give you an extra hand on any crawl, which saves you time, making you more money. Also, if you are in an attic, be very careful when you're walking. More than one installer has stepped through a ceiling. Before you do anything, find out what's behind the surface of the wall. Here's a few tips when drilling. Always drill from the inside out so there's no question where the outlet will show up on the wall. Even more importantly, make sure you know exactly what's on the exterior wall that you will be drilling through. One way to ensure you know where the exit point will be is simply measure down and across from a window or exterior door. Once the hole has been drilled, you may need a little help getting the cable through. Exterior walls are usually insulated, and though the drill bit easily penetrates the insulation, the cable may snag and bend if just pushed through. Here's a tip. Take a piece of number 10 ground wire, and after drilling the hole, push the straightened piece of wire through to the exterior of the home. Place the cable through the feed-through bushing and tape the end to the ground wire. Go back in the home and pull the cable through the wall. Go back outside and run a silicone seal around the feed-through bushing and slide it in the hole until it is flush with the surface. Now you should install cable clips to secure the drop. Go back inside and with the cable pulled to the outlet, install the connectors. A wall plate should be placed on the wall for a finished look. Remember to always clean up after yourself. With the wall plate installed, it's time to route the cable to the IRD. Here are a few tips to help you get there neatly. The ideal situation is to have the cable penetrate directly behind the home entertainment equipment. If this isn't possible, you need to route the cable along an interior area. We recommend that you route the cable from the wall plate down to the floor along the bottom of the baseboard to the IRD location, making sure to properly secure the cable. In some instances, cable may be routed under the edge of the carpet. Tack strips are usually far enough away from the wall to allow placement of the cable between the tack strip and the wall. Lift the edge of the carpet while leaving it on the tack strip, then tuck the cable between the tack strip and baseboard. By pushing the carpet towards the wall, it will reattach itself to the tack strip. Every effort should be made to return the carpet to its original appearance. If you can't install a wall outlet, you may need to route cable directly through the carpet. This can be done by cutting an X-hole in the carpet and the pad, holding them apart, and drilling through. A piece of ground wire can be used to help you locate the hole while you're under the house and to pull the cable up through the floor. When the cable is inserted in the hole, the carpet will seal around it, making it virtually invisible. Always remember, a phone line is required. If a telephone outlet is not available, you'll have to install one. You can do this by routing a dedicated telephone line from the service box outside to your preferred location. The telephone junction box has two sections, one for the customer use and the other restricted for telephone company use only. Connect your outlet to the consumer side by following the color code. Red and green wires are usually the primary phone line in the house, and if they have a second line, it'll be yellow and black. You should never cut into the customer's station wire. If a home run is not possible, connecting to an existing junction box or biscuit jack is allowed. Phone station wire needs to be UL listed and UV protected, 4-conductor and 22 gauge. Remove the jack cover using a screwdriver. Secure the modular jack to the wall using the screws supplied with the jack. Prepare the station wire by removing approximately 1 1/4 inch of the outer insulation. This will expose the 4 conductors. Remove 1/2 inch of insulation from each of the 4 conductors. Wrap each conductor on the modular jack in the direction the screw tightens. Be careful not to overlap the wires. Match the color wires to the proper screw and spade wire. Tighten the screws. Replace the modular jack cover. Remove the customer's phone from the hook. Connect the other end of the station wire to the customer side of the demarcation terminal. Close and secure cover on the demarcation point. Test the modular jack to make sure the phone is working. Finally, connect a satin jumper from the modular jack to the IRD. With your cables connected to the IRD, let's take a closer look at how to integrate the IRD into the customer's equipment. You should always use the best video input available. Since this TV has an S-video connection, you'll use that one and won't connect the yellow video input. If the TV does not have an S-video input, the next best connection is composite video and audio. Plug the IRD into the electrical wall outlet. If the customer has a VCR or DVD player, connect it in line with the TV. Simply take the out-to-TV output of the IRD and connect it to the VCR input. The output of the VCR or DVD is then connected to the TV input on the TV set. This allows the customer to view video on TV channel 3 or 4. If the customer has a stereo VCR, and if your IRD and TV have multiple in and out ports, you can set up the system so the customer can record and play back in stereo by making the appropriate connections. Next, you need to make sure the phone jacks are properly connected to a working phone line. Once everything is connected, you need to program the remote control. You can program a universal Directv remote to control multiple devices such as TVs, VCRs, DVD players, and more. The codes are easily found in the manual that came with the remote. Follow the instructions in the booklet. Verify that all the equipment is connected properly using the preview channel. On the setup screen, check for signal from all 3 satellite locations. Check all transponders and LMBs if viewing a multi-sat system, and confirm that the signal level is sufficient in reaching the IRD. Obtain and record the serial, model, and access card numbers on the work order or equipment manuals.
Okay, Mrs. Edwards, I've got your Directv system installed.
Great.
This Directv system.
Keeping the customer in the loop every step of the way will help create a more positive experience for the customer. Once you verify that everything is working properly, it's time to show the customer the completed work. This includes the ODU placement, the grounding of the system, and the routing of the cable both outside and inside the home. Once you've reviewed the installation with the customer, it's time to begin the activation process.
Okay, I've got everything set up for you now. I just need to use your telephone so I can call to activate the service.
Sure, it's right over here.
Okay.
While the customer is on the phone, it's a good time to clean up and gather your tools. You should clean up any mess that has been made, leaving the house in the same condition that it was when you arrived. Always take the time to educate the customer. It's probably the single most important thing you can do to impact a customer's enjoyment of their service. Start with the most basic features, working your way up to the more complex ones. At a minimum, teach the customer how to turn the TV, VCR, and Directv system on and off, how to turn the volume up and down, how to change channels, how to record using a VCR, how to use the exit or clear button, how to switch between Directv and off-air programming, channel neighborhoods, how to order pay-per-view, and locks and limits. You should hand the remote to the customer so they can have some hands-on practice. This will also give the customer a chance to demonstrate they understand what you've shown them, while answering any questions they may have.
Sometimes power disturbances or power surges can cause a problem in your receiver where it needs to be reset.
Power failures or surges can cause disturbances that require a reset. Tell the customer to unplug the IRD for 30 seconds, then plug it back in. This will cause the IRD to go back to the factory default preset and probably correct most minor malfunctions. Also, advise the customer that regional obstructions such as heavy rainstorms or snowstorms can cause temporary degradation or loss of signal. Ask the customer if they have any further questions and give them the manuals that came with their system. Be sure to give the customer your local company's name and phone number so they can contact you directly if they have any installation issues. Review the checklist with the customer and have them sign the checklist and the work order. Once the installation is complete, thank the customer, gather your tools, and leave. Also, be sure to close the work order with your dispatcher. Wow, we've covered a lot of information in this video, so let's take a few moments to review. A Directv installation starts with the work order. You have to be able to read the codes. Pre-calling the customer is essential to a successful installation. A little bit of time on the pre-call can save you a world of trouble on the job. Always make sure your van is stocked with all the items you'll need to complete your job. A well-stocked van is the key to a smooth install. Arriving with a neat and professional appearance makes your job easier. It makes the customer more comfortable, and that helps to put you in charge of the installation. Site surveys make or break a job. take the time to do an extensive interior and exterior site survey for every installation job. Finding the correct spot to mount the ODU and mounting it correctly are absolutely essential to a successful installation. Having the right tools for the job will help you complete your work better, easier, and faster. Remember, grounding a system is required by the National Electric Code. Professionalism shows in every job. When routing cables, route them as cleanly as possible. The less you see of the install, the better. Always use Directv approved compression connectors and be absolutely sure to use the correct compression tool for the connector you're using. Phone line installation is essential. If the home does not have an outlet you can use to connect the IRD, you must install one. Be sure to fully integrate the IRD with the customer's existing equipment. This includes programming the remote to control the TV, VCR, DVD, and more. Activation is an essential part of getting the customer their service. While the customer is activating their account, it's a good time to put away your tools and clean up. Always take the time to educate the customer. It's probably the single most important thing you can do to impact a customer's enjoyment of their service. A customer that knows how to operate their system will enjoy their service more. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this session. On behalf of Directv's Technical Training Department, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We hope it provided you with useful information that will help you do your job better and faster.
Scene 1, and we'll take 2.
Check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. Wow, we covered that. Cut the tape, cut it. Okay, ready? Wow. 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 Wowzer.
Dude.
Dudes.
Oh